Companion is in theaters right now, and weirdly enough, it's already on digital as well. We can touch on the strange release strategy in a bit, but first let's discuss if the movie is any good and whether or not you should take your robot date to see it on a romantic outing or an evening in. Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Sean and I love movies. I especially love horror movies, so I was excited to finally get to see Companion from first time feature director Drew Hancock. Forgive me for the delay in posting if you are a regular follower of mine, as I was moving and so did not have all of my equipment available to me. You'll notice the background is a little barren right now. I intend to change that as well. I plan to cover many of the films that I missed during that time, including Dogman and Captain America Brave New World. I have seen both. Let's start, however, with Companion because this movie's pretty good. Companion is about a group of friends at a weekend getaway in a remote cabin. Their outing gets crazy and chaotic after one of the gang, Iris, played by Sophie Thatcher, is revealed to be more than meets the eye. Companion stars the aforementioned Sophie Thatcher, sort of a new horror girl icon between this film and the Hugh Grant picture Heretic. She's pretty magnetic, so no complaints about either performance that I've seen of hers thus far. Companion also stars Jack Quaid as Iris's boyfriend Josh, Smile 2's Lucas Gage, and What We Do in the Shadows is Harvey Guillen. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. Um, Lucas Gage and Harvey Guillen play Patrick and Eli, one of the other couples on the trip. Populating the rest of the cast are Rupert Friend, Megan Suri, Matt McCarthy, and a few others. It's a sparse cast, but everyone is operating at a nice level, tuned into the kind of comedy horror blend that is sort of at play throughout the majority of the runtime. You may have noticed that I have not really talked yet about the big sort of premise of the movie. That's because some of the early marketing seemed to want to hide that aspect of the movie, whereas later pieces of marketing sort of just straight up gave away the entire game. In order to talk about my thoughts regarding Companion, I feel like I need to spoil the twist that the trailers themselves spoiled later in the marketing. So consider this a spoiler warning if you have not had the big idea of Companion spoiled for you and you want to be totally surprised. Okay, so, Sophie Thatcher's character, Iris, turns out to be a robot partner that Jack Quaid's character has purchased and jailbroken. The reason behind his tampering is a twist that I will not spoil, and I will also keep from spoiling the appearance of at least one other robot in the story of the film. In order to talk about the movie, though, I do think that knowing this piece of the puzzle is important. After all, the later trailers, like I said, kind of just give away the fact that Iris is a robot, anyways. They kind of just spoil that whole deal. So, had the film kind of stuck to its guns and just kept marketing the movie with a fun kind of horror comedy vibe, I would have been much more pleased by my screening. I love when a movie can kind of shock me, so I was planning on seeing the film just based on that first trailer that gives nothing away besides that Jack Quaid's character is probably kind of a tool. And I found the later trailers kind of less interesting because, at that point, I was primed to expect a story that was in some part about like a robot, part science fiction, etc. And I feel like a small amount of the fun was kind of sucked out of the anticipation before sitting down in my theater. However, that doesn't mean that the movie itself is not good. Companion is quite entertaining. I think the comedic aspects work, particularly from Harvey Guillen, who is obviously comedically talented. And I think the kind of blunt commentary about relationships in the modern era and the type of kind of incel weirdo that Jack Quaid's character represents, I think all of that works as effective enough societal critique. I wonder about some level of studio interference here, though, particularly due to the marketing leading up to the movie's release and partially because of some decisions in the movie itself. I have worked on a few TV and film productions, but was never really present in any of the conversations about marketing or release strategies. So take that with a grain of salt. But I find it interesting that the studio not only gave away the kind of central premise in the trailers, but then also they make a point right away, pretty much in the film, to tell the audience that Iris is going to kill Josh. Maybe somebody at Warner Brothers decided that audiences would not want to stomach Josh's mistreatment and objectification of Iris without some sort of certainty up front that he will, in fact, get what he deserves. But I would have been perfectly fine had they not assured me right away that Josh would die. Like, I assumed he likely would, as most horror movie boyfriends or horror movie villains of this type kind of do. But I, didn't need that detail to be explicitly stated in basically the opening sequence of the entire movie. It's also unfortunate that the film did not really open to box office expectations, or rather did not, sing at the box office. Because in this day and age, that means that studios get cold feet and push things to streaming pretty hastily. Companion was in theaters for only around like 18 days before Warner Brothers made it available for digital rental and purchase, one of the shortest theaters to streaming windows that I can recall in recent memory. I'm sure there are some that are comparable, but none spring to mind. I am all for people being able to access films more readily. For example, those who may be severely immunocompromised to a particularly significant degree, or those who may live in rural parts of the country that don't really have a lot of movie theaters, or parts of the world really that don't have a lot of movie theaters available. But a studio like Warner Brothers, however, does have plenty of resources to facilitate a decent rollout for a movie like Companion. If a movie like Companion that is, being well received by critics and audiences, and that is also part of a genre, horror, that usually makes great return on investment, if that cannot be afforded a decent theatrical window by a major movie studio, if that studio can't, show faith in the quality of the movie by letting it have some sort of legs at the box office, or a chance for having legs at the box office, then what does that portend for riskier and more artistic movies going forward? It's a scary thought, if you ask me, as just a lover of going to the movies and a lover of like risky movies. So I don't really know what to think about that. It's not something that I think in this particular case I am in support of. If a movie that is a super indie drama gets made available for rental immediately because it had such a small rollout, that's one thing. But a movie like this that had like an IMAX run, it just feels like Warner Brothers should have given it a little bit more of a chance before kind of hitting the eject button and throwing it onto digital. Anyways, so where does Companion rank for me on my scale of A list, amazing, average, abysmal, or needs to be abolished? Well, I think Companion is a solid horror flick with decent enough laughs, so it's at the higher end of the average category. It would be a pretty strong, like 3-star film in the star rating system if I was really forced to make one there, like a determination in terms of stars out of 5. I think if you're a dedicated horror fan, you'll certainly be pleased by it. Yeah, there's comedy, there's gore, there's fun costuming. So, it has certainly plenty of things to offer. I saw this film as part of an experiment where I see as many movies as possible with AMC A-List in a single year. I saved $10.99 with this ticket, which I was perfectly happy with. I may forego this experiment, however, given that A-List is about to change to 4 movies a week later in the year, which would make filling out these slots even more difficult, sometimes even finding 3 movies a week that I am, A, willing to see, and B, that I have the time to see. Sometimes doing that 3 times a week is already kind of difficult, so 4 is even, more of a task. We'll see how that goes. Um, so you can let me know in the comments if you think I need to continue this experiment, or if you would rather I just keep up with buzzy movies instead as they come out, and if that is kind of more of what you are interested in. At the end of the day, I just want to share a love of movies with other people. So as long as I get to do that, I'm totally fine with it. But what did you think of Companion if you saw it? Did you see it? Were you as annoyed with the kind of marketing strategy as I was? I feel like I haven't heard a lot of other people say that they wished they sat on the premise longer. So maybe I'm kind of unique in that perspective. I was just kind of sitting there like, man, wouldn't it have been like a fun kind of mildly jaw-dropping moment to learn that she's a robot, in the theater rather than in all of the marketing beforehand. But that might just be me. I guess now that I've issued a spoiler warning, I can say that I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised at Lucas Gage's character being a robot. That moment was kind of surprising and fun to me. Um, I also feel like maybe it could have committed a little bit more to being a comedy in some respects. Like the service guys that come to kind of take Iris away at the very end are pretty hysterical, and some of the comedy elements were not as strong throughout, particularly after Harvey Guillen exits for reasons that, well, it's a spoiler review because his character dies. But that's such a minor quibble. I still liked this movie and thought it was pretty fun. But let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of that. Feel free to like this video or subscribe to the channel for my thoughts on further theatrical releases. Until next time, stay safe and please do not jailbreak your companion robots because it does not seem to go well. Thank you very much for watching. I don't know if I said that already. I'm still adjusting to the new space. Bye.